All right. Thank you for being here. I'm back. It is Wednesday, January 4th, 2023, It's 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific. I am here for you to answer your real estate questions. This is a live Q&A that I do. You can log on, be live with your questions. If you're live tonight, I'm excited to talk to you. I have questions lined up. If you're not live and you're listening to this on replay somewhere, if you're on my page watching on a replay, I have a lot of questions lined up that I'm going to answer for you. But first, I have an announcement. I am not going to be doing these live Q&As going forward. So if you're somebody who logs on every week, I thank you very much. It's been awesome and fun to talk to you guys. If it's something that you listen to on replay frequently with me, then again, I apologize. But we all kind of like reassess things at the end of the year. And I was reassessing at the end of last year. And I have a lot of goals, big goals, kind of scary goals, and things that are going to be difficult to attain. And I just decided it was time for me to wind this up. I know some of you listen every week. I have actually friends and family that listen that aren't even in real estate, but they listen because they support me and they love me. And I appreciate that. My mom listens actually, and she doesn't comment. She just sits back and listens because she's not in real estate. But so, mom, sorry I didn't tell you, but I'm not gonna be doing, I'm not gonna be doing this going forward. So again, it's been awesome, and I've been a real pleasure doing this. It's been a lot of fun for me. I started about a year and a half ago, and I was kind of nervous actually because I had never live streamed before. I've recorded tons of stuff over the years and talked in front of people, but never live streamed, and it was kind of intimidating. So I'm glad that I did it. I've met a lot of cool people, been able to answer tons of questions, and that's always fun for me. I really do love answering the questions. I love interacting and helping people move past their challenges, and so I'll be doing that for sure. And this Q&A may pop up again, but it probably won't just be in public like this to free to log on. It could be a closed group or a private group or something that I create. So be on the lookout for that. I'll post it here on Facebook if that's what I end up doing. But for now, it's just going away. And so, again, I want to thank everybody who does log on and does ask questions, and you're here every week. It's awesome to have you guys here, and it's been a real joy. It's been really fun for me, actually. I really enjoy this format quite a bit. But time to stop it for now and focus on some other projects and some other things that I want to get done. But like I said, it may pop up again in the form of like a closed group or something a little bit different. So, but tonight we're running it as usual. I have questions to answer. If you're live and you want to ask questions, please feel free to do that. This is your time to just pick my brain, and we can go back and forth and get through some stuff, and really hopefully move the needle for you and get you further down the path. But in the future, if you want to reach out to me, if you have questions, concerns, comments, I do get questions all the time. If you guys want to continue with those, and I'll try to answer as many as I can, but shoot me a DM in Facebook. It's probably the best way to do it. Honestly, that's kind of where I would like to, going forward, that's where I'd like to kind of funnel all the communication is just DMing me straight in Facebook, and I'll see it. I check those every day. So it's probably the fastest and easiest way to get a hold of me. But let's dive into tonight's questions. And it looks like we've got somebody on here. Nick just said, thanks. Nick, you're here all the time. So thank you. Thanks for participating and making this fun for me. I love answering questions, but I love answering live questions more. I'll be honest with you. It's more fun for me when the questions come live. And so thanks for jumping on, and thanks for asking questions and participating and making this not just informative and good for you guys, but fun for me. That's really the fun part for me. Let's see, Doug, what do you have to say? I'm going to put you to work tonight. Good. I'm working on my first wholesale deal and have two questions. All right. When I sent it out to my buyers list, I had two people ask for comps. I did not provide an ARV or sample estimates. I gave them my comps, and one wanted to argue about them and ask for a lower price. The other person was just being lazy, I think. Do you give comps when asked? No, we don't provide comps. We're not a comp service. I'm not going to go and ask my dispo guy to run comps and give them to people. If somebody asks me for an ARV, I'll give it to them. I'll tell them what I think it's worth. But that's it. It's a number, right? If they say, well, what do you think it's worth? And I'll just say, 150,000. That's what I think the ARV is. And if they want to go, well, if they want to start arguing it, I'll go, okay, fine. Come up with your own ARV. I'm out. You asked me, so I told you. But if you don't like it, go run comps, right? I mean, I don't like being mean to buyers, and I probably would soften it a little bit, but essentially that's what I would say. I'm not running comps for you, because here's the thing. The reason I don't even give an ARV or repair estimates or anything like that, because I know that any house flipper or landlord or whoever's buying it that has any intention whatsoever of buying this house that I'm putting out, they don't even really want my comps or my repair estimates, because they're going to run their own. Mine are irrelevant. Doesn't matter what I think it's going to be worth. They need to know what they think it's going to be worth. And like I said, any buyer who's seriously going to buy it, like a real serious buyer, they're not even really going to really care about my comps. They may look at them, but it doesn't matter to them. They're going to run their own comps. If they ask you for comps and they ask you for repair estimates, I can almost guarantee you that person's not buying the house. They are so green and so clueless that they're never going to pull the trigger. They're just making you do work. And I refuse to do people's work for them. We have a big enough business and enough going on our own. Okay. Second question from Doug. I'm going to have to go back to the seller for a price reduction. I should put these up on the screen, guys. Sorry if you're watching this. I'm going to have to go back to the seller for a price reduction. She was asking 170. I told her my number was 155, but we agreed on 165 because it was her deceased father's house and she got emotional and I caved. Okay, that's honest. I did tell her that I think I can get, and that's where you stopped. I think I can get. I ran out of characters probably. My thing won't go beyond that. But I'm assuming you told her that you think you can get 165. I'm not sure where the question is because I think you got cut off. Oh, I see. Here we go. I can go back. Hang on. Let me hide this for a minute. It just won't go up on my screen, but I do see it all. Okay. I did tell her that I think I can get it done at 165, but maybe not. She has had a couple of offers around 125. I'm concerned that if I go back to negotiate, she may try to find somebody else. Well, I mean, I always, and Doug, I know you know me well enough. I always think it's really important when you're signing contracts for more than you really want to sign them for. You kind of compromise and go a little closer to their number, that you always set them up for the potential price reduction. In this case, you're telling me that she got offers around 125. I assume that's when you signed the contract. She had offers. If she had offers for 125 and you offered her 155, where do you think you need to be? Because I don't know what offers you're getting. I don't think you told me that in either part of the question. So do you have to go lower than 125? Is it required to go that much lower to get this thing done? Because if you just go down to 125, she didn't have offers better than that, it sounds like. And so I'd try to go down to 125. But the key is in all of this is when you sign the contract, when you're in that first initial meeting and you're signing the deal up, you've got to set them up. Okay, I'm good at 155. Okay. Yeah, she's not going to yank it from you if you're still $30,000 higher than the other offers that she was getting. I think you're fine, but okay, good. I think you're fine. But the cautionary tale here for everyone listening, including you, Doug, is whenever you go to a number that you're not as comfortable with, you have to set that table ahead of time and say, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, I came in here authorized and prepared to offer you up to and not to exceed 155. But I have agreed to go a little higher because I think perhaps we can make it work at that price. But you have to give me a little bit of time. I'm going to go back to my investors. I'm going to talk to my team. We're going to look at our repair estimates again and see if we can get this thing to work at 165. But if in 10 days, if in 5 days, if in 14 days, whatever you negotiate, if I come back and say, listen, I reran the numbers, I talked to all my investors, all the money people, and we just can't go past 155, I will tell you that in 10 days. Or I'll come back and say, hey, we can do 165. We can meet your number. Okay. But I'm going to come back and just give you an honest answer, and I'm going to be very transparent. And at that point, if you want to walk away, you can. But if you're interested in talking about a slight reduction at that point, then that's something we'll discuss. But I'll just come back and give you an honest answer. That's the best I can do. But I only need 10 days. I'm not going to ask 3 months or 6 months like a realtor might. So give me 10 days and I'll come back and give you a very honest answer. So that's kind of the short version of what we say. Yeah, Corey, Doug, be sure to leave the door open with the seller. Try to get a solid buyer a number and say 165, then go back to her and say we can get. Yeah, exactly. You have to set the table for the potential conversation about a price reduction in 10 days, right? But that's 10 days that they've had to psychologically feel like this deal is going to be done. She found a buyer or they found a buyer. It's just psychologically they kind of have moved past it a little bit. So when you come back, first of all, you told them that you were going to come back potentially. Well, you told them you're going to come back 100%, but you might have news that isn't what they want to hear. And so when you come back, usually it's not a bad conversation. They kind of expected it. So but you got to set that up front, though. That's very important. It's very hard to go back for a price reduction when a price reduction wasn't even talked about on the initial signing. Now people are going to be angry. You had a contract and you're coming back and ask for a reduction. It's coming out of the blue, right? So you don't want it to come out of the blue. So set that conversation up ahead of time. It'll go way better. All right. Jamie says, hi, Mike. How much price reduction are you considering when buying apartment complex? Wow, that is an impossible question. What is the cost of the complex? What's the situation of the seller? What's the market look like? You know what I mean? There's a million questions. And then I also should tell you, I don't really buy apartments. So I'm not probably the best guy to talk. I mean, to me, negotiate is negotiation. Somebody who buys single family homes could go in and negotiate an apartment complex, but I don't buy them. And it's just like there is no set number that you reduce when you're buying in apartment complex. Like, were they way overvalued? Were they way undervalued? Were they right at the right value? What's the situation? There would be 100 questions, but at some point I would get out of my league. And so unfortunately, I can't get super deep in the weeds with apartments because I don't buy them yet. All right, guys, I see nothing else live. I'm going to go to the questions that I had sent to me real quick. Oh, something just popped through. Thank you. Well, I'm sorry. Yeah, you're thanking me, but I couldn't really help you, but that's nice. I appreciate it. Okay. So the first question I got for tonight was, I am a new investor looking to get started, and I'm wondering how you funded your first deal, taking an informal poll to examine my options. It was a long time ago for me, and I wouldn't do it the same way again, probably. Maybe I would, but I probably would try to be smarter about it. What I did was I purchased the property itself with a standard traditional mortgage. I went to a mortgage company, the same company that I bought my house with, and told them I wanted to buy an investment property. And so they funded the property, and then I used cash and credit cards to fund the renovation. And I was flipping it, and so that's how I did it. And so I had to make a monthly payment, just like any other mortgage. And then we had the money on hand, cash and credit, like I said, and that's how we did the renovation. After that, every property that I flipped for the next several years, I used private money. I raised money from people who wanted to lend to me, and I had to start off with terms that weren't great. I was giving half of the deal to the lender, and so that's fine to get started. And then eventually, I stopped giving half, and I started just paying a rate of return, 8, 9, 10%, depending on the situation. But the first one was a standard traditional mortgage and just scrapping together all of the money that I had available to me, cash and credit, to get the renovation done. That's how we did it. Pretty straightforward. I probably, if I was going to do it again, I would start working immediately on raising private money. And I would probably use like a hard money lender if I had to. If I had no private money available, I would use a hard money lender probably to fund it. Just yeah, that's how I would do it. All right, next question. Let's see here. I want to get my team back into an office at least 3 days per week in 2023. I'm getting a lot of pushback. Thoughts? People have gotten a little bit comfortable with being out of the office since COVID. So that's a common struggle, I think, with people are having a hard time getting everyone back into the office once they've had a taste of being at home. But at the end of the day, I don't want to go all Elon Musk on people, but it's your company. If you want them to be in the office, then they need to come to the office. If they don't want to come to the office and it's that important to them to not come to the office, then maybe your company's not the right company, right? You can't have people refusing to come in, I guess. I mean, I would say I apologize that you don't want to come in. It sounds like when you say you want to get your team back into the office, they used to be in the office. So it's not like you hired them under false pretenses. You didn't hire them and say you don't have to come to the office. You had them in the office. You stopped coming to the office for health reasons for everybody. It sounds like that time has passed. It's time to come back to the office. This is what you want. And if they don't want that, if that doesn't line up with their current lifestyle, you might find somebody else. It's that simple. I mean, at some point for me, you're talking to a guy. I mean, I'm a Gen X, right? So you're talking to a guy that I don't know that I would get into a heavy negotiation with people that work for me, that I pay a salary or a commission to come back in the office or not. Like if you want them back, then you come back. But everything is a meritocracy. If that person or people who say they don't want to come back into the office, if they are an absolute rock star and a cornerstone of your business and somebody that really makes and breaks your company, you might have to make an exception. Maybe that person doesn't have to come back, right? It's like, to use a football analogy, a coach, Jimmy Johnson, he used to coach Dallas Cowboys, who I'm a fan of. He one time said he treats everyone fairly, but he doesn't treat everyone equally, right? And so the starters and the superstars on the team, they got a little more leeway. They got a little more slack. The second string people, the people who were barely, making the team, they got no leeway, right? They screwed up. They didn't come to meetings. They were late for meetings. They didn't do something they're supposed to do. Gone. You don't do that with your starters, but so everyone's treated fairly. It's just not equally. So that may be the situation, right? I would tend toward you're all coming back and we're going to make the best of this. It can be great. I wouldn't try to make it a horrible environment, obviously, but if they want him to come back, there must be a reason. And I could get that, there might be a little more productivity, a little more, team, a feel of team and all that camaraderie. That's, I see it. I would want to probably, if I had an office, I would want everyone back in the office now too. 100%. I would have wanted them back a year ago, probably. We went all virtual right before COVID, actually, before COVID even was a thing that anybody had ever heard of. We went virtual and we've never gone back, but we did it because we wanted to. And everyone was pretty happy about it, actually. And so we just decided we all liked it. We're not going back to the office. We're not going to do that anymore. So I just say it's time to go back. It's time to go back. And if you have, for example, like a acquisitions person or something who's just like an absolute stone cold killer and they don't want to come back to the office, yeah, maybe you have to work around that a little bit, kind of come with a compromise or come to an agreement of some kind where you don't lose them. But if a B player, C player says they don't want to come back, just find somebody else who does want to go in the office. Sounds harsh, guys, but that's honestly at some point, we gotta run the business the way we want to run it, because ultimately you're trying to run your business and be successful so that you can not only pay yourself but pay them and support their families and help them grow and pay their bills and thrive and all that good stuff. So it's not like you're telling them to come back to torture them. You're telling them to come back, I'm assuming, for a very good reason. You think it's just gonna be more productive or better for the business. It's time to come back. Simple as that. All right. Let's see. Okay, Mike Smith, are you using automated follow-up or are you having people manually phone leads in your CRM? So we do use automated follow-up, but only after a point, right? So if somebody calls in or fills out a form for PPC or whatever, and they get into our world and they have a house that they want to sell but for whatever reason, they're not ready to sell to us right now, for whatever reason, right? It can be various reasons. We'll put them in like a hot follow-up um, kind of a bucket. And that bucket will reach out to them manually. Like a real person will reach out, call them, in a couple of weeks or a month. If they said, give us a few weeks, we'll call them back in a few weeks. If they said, try us in the spring, we'll call them in the spring. But it'll be an actual person who's like following up pretty rigorously for a while. And if they kind of go a little dark, or they, like, we're not going to sell anymore, whatever, they'll go into like a midterm follow up. And then that's when automation starts. There'll be text messages and perhaps sometimes ringless voicemail and emails, right? We'll go into that like long term automated drip. And then that will trigger a phone call, but less frequently, like maybe 6 months later, before we're like our CRM tells us to pick up the phone and call them. And so it kind of there is some automation, but usually the automation kicks in when it becomes like a warm or colder lead, something that we don't really think is going to happen anytime soon. We'll just put them on a drip. It's automated at that point. But if somebody calls in and they want to sell, and then like if this happens, if you ever talk to sellers, this happens. They'll call in and it sounds great. They want to sell. They want to talk to their husband, talk to their wife, talk to their lawyer, whatever, right? They kind of push back for a minute, like, not right now, but I'll call you back and set an appointment so you guys can come out and talk to me. And then they go black. They don't ever call you. They're not returning calls. We'll stay on that person pretty hard until we get back in touch with them. And they either say, yes, come on out, let's talk about this, or they say, no, stop calling me, we're not selling anymore. You know what I mean? Like if they seem interested and they kind of give us that thumbs up that they want to sell, we are going to be ever present in their life. We are going to call them and text them, not abusively or aggressively, but persistently, right? Kind of like on the edge of being a little bit pushy, but not quite there. Like we want because the reason I say that and the reason we do that is because if they called us and said they want to sell, guess what? They've called other people. They've called your competitors and said they want to sell. And your competitors are right there, answering the phone and calling. So they have more than us probably calling them and trying to get that deal done. So we'll stay on them pretty good. So because, out of sight, out of mind, if they talk to us and say they want to sell, and then for whatever reason, they kind of push back and they tell us to give us some time. And in the meantime, they talk to another investor. They've already forgotten about us. We're far in the rearview mirror, and they just have that investor on their mind. And so we want to keep inserting ourselves and just saying, hey, we're here. Remember, you talked to us and we wanted to help you. We still want to help you. We want to stay in the game. We want to at least stay in that competition for that property. So that's why we stay on them pretty good. But when they say leave us alone, or hey, we're not going to sell, or like call us back in 6 months, we back off. We put them on a slow drip, and then we call them in 6 months. That's pretty much how we do it. Okay. Let's see here. Another question from the emails. I am currently in college and I know I want to get into buy and hold investing. What are some strategies I could be doing now to help get prepared for when I'm ready to start investing? Okay. I'm a fan and I am a believer in you can invest in real estate passively, certainly anytime. You can do it while you're in college. You can do it while you have a full-time job. But if you really just want to kind of get some information and get in the game a little bit, learn before you buy, I totally respect that too. The best thing you can do as someone who's a future buy and hold investor is either go work for a property management company, because that will really educate you fast and effectively on what it takes to be a buy and hold investor on the hold side, right? What happens after you buy the property and renovate it? Like, what are the tenant issues? How do you screen tenants? What's the software and automations that you should set up? How do you hire handymen? How do you track their work? Like, how do you pay them? All that stuff that you may need to know as a buy and hold investor if you're going to manage your own stuff. That's a great way to get an education. The other thing you could do is go and work for a buy and hold investor, right? Go into a organization or company that actually goes out, identifies undervalued properties, negotiates a price, buys them, hires contractors to renovate the property and get it rent ready. Like, you'll see that whole the whole evolution of that deal. If you're so the bottom line is go work for somebody, and really go work for them for free. Like, offer to work for them for free. Do you know how impressive and refreshing that would be for an investor who's a buy and hold investor to say, listen, I just want to learn the industry. I'm eager. I'm in college right now. I'm not ready to get started, but I really want to learn from somebody who has experience like you. I want to work for you and you don't have to pay me. I just want to see the process and I just want to have access to you. That's incredibly powerful. You go in there and start asking for, 15 bucks an hour, 20 bucks an hour, 25 bucks an hour. They can hire anybody for that. They don't need somebody, who's split between college and them, right? You have other obligations college. So I would go work for somebody for free for until you're out of college and then start doing it. Or if you're impatient like me and you're like, I don't want to wait and I don't want to work for somebody, go buy a course, right? Reach out to me, work with me, like find somebody who's in the space and pay them for their knowledge, like pay them to understand what you have to do and kind of, crash through all the BS that you don't have to figure out on your own, right? You don't need to do trial and error. When you hire someone who did trial and error and figured it all out and got to the other side and has success, go seek them out and ask for their help. Maybe find a mentor, a local mentor who you don't have to pay, somebody who's been a buy and hold investor for 20 years and they know the ropes. Go see if they'll mentor you. Like, whatever you have to do, go out and do it to get started. But if you don't want to get started till after college, that's totally understandable. Go work for somebody for free and just pick their brain and watch how it works. Okay, let's get back in here. Let's see. Mike Smith, what are your follow-up sequences in the short term? What about long term? So the hot leads, we're calling them 3 times a week. Like, we're not letting many days go by before we call them. And it's all phone calls and texts. There's no emails or anything. It's all phone calls and texts. Long term, I'd have to pull it up, the cadence, but if it's a long term cold lead, somebody that has very low chance of us actually buying from them anytime soon, but we just don't want it. But they didn't say we'll never sell. They just made it sound like they're not selling anytime soon. It's like once a month, once every couple of months. Well, it'll be like alternate between um, email and text every other month, right? Just kind of a slow, just enough that they can't completely forget about us. Or, you don't talk to them for a year and then in a year you like send them a text. They're not going to remember who you are, right? So people are going to forget after a month or two. So we don't let more than that go by before we reach out to them. Okay. Bob, what's up? Bob, you're on vacation, man. You're logging in on vacation. That's awesome. Can you tell us why you like the land contract model? Yeah, I can. So Bob is a friend of mine who's out of the country on vacation, having a blast. And for some reason, he's thinking about work and logging in here, man. He's just an awesome guy. So the reason I like the land contract model and what that is, if you're listening to this and you don't know, my company we do a lot of wholesaling, right? So we do a lot of marketing. And some of that marketing we wholesale, like we have been for several years. We'll wholesale it out. But now we've sort of added something to our business where some properties we get that meet a certain criteria, we will buy them. Like we'll bring in private money, we'll buy the property outright. Then we will resell that property on terms, right? Like owner finance terms. But when people say owner finance in our industry, they're usually talking about buying it from a seller on owner finance, right? The seller owns it free and clear. And we come up with payments and interest that is acceptable to both parties, and we buy that property. Well, I'm kind of doing it differently. We're buying the property for cash, right? We're buying it. We own it. And then we are the sellers that are selling it on terms. We call it land contract here in Michigan. We're selling it on land contract to the buyer who wants to be a homeowner, right? The reason I like it so much is I had about 25 rentals at the height of my portfolio, right? Not a ton, but enough. And the reason I like land contract is because with those rentals, I bought 25 of them within 2 or 3 years of each other. And like 7 years later, 6 years later, there were some deferred, not deferred, but there was some capital expenditures that started coming through, right? There were some leaky roofs, there were some furnaces, there were some mechanicals, some electrical stuff, some plumbing. Like all of these repairs started coming out of the woodwork, and it was like a popcorn popper. Every month, every couple of months, there was another house with a major expense. Now, these houses, I was cash flowing like 2 to 400, maybe 2 to like 350 per door. And so when you have a $6,000, $8,000 roof, that's eating up your cash flow for a year or more, right? It's a long time. And when they start piling up on each other, every once in a while you have a catastrophic repair. I had a repair once that was a sewer issue. And it was a sewer that the issue started in the house, and all the piping, all the drains, and everything that went out to the road, all of it was like roots going through. It was terrible. And I kept trying to fix it as inexpensively as possible. And so I had the plumber go out, and they would like, like run like a road rooter kind of a thing. And then they had to like cut up some of the basement cement, like jackhammer it and replace it. And they thought that would be good. And that didn't work. So they do a little more, a little more, a little more. Because I did it that way and I didn't just go do the whole thing right now, it ended up being a $20,000 problem, right? Which sounds just stupid. Like it never should cost that much. But because of the way I did it, I tried to do the least amount possible, and it kept I needed more and more and more. It was like $20,000. What do you think that does in my cash flow, right? It's terrible. So with land contract, you don't really own the property. You're holding the note, like you're holding the mortgage, like Chase Bank or a mortgage company, but they are the owners. So when the roof goes bad, when the plumbing goes bad, when the toilet breaks, it's all them. We don't get repair calls ever because we don't own the house. They do. And they own it. And so they're used to being renters. Now they're homeowners. They're happy. We're happy because we're not fixing and repairing anything. And, it's a beautiful thing for both people. That's what we love about it. I don't love being a landlord. I really like being a bank. So we're just being the bank. Okay. Doug, join the local REIA and start networking. Yeah, that's the advice for the college kid, I think, right? Yeah, definitely. Go to RIAs and meetups, all that stuff for sure. When you're new, you should always go to that stuff. It doesn't hurt when you've been doing it a while. I just think there's a point of diminishing returns to RIAs and meetups. When you go initially, you need a lot, and so you're getting a lot out of it. And as you kind of get more experience and do more and have more success, you get less, and almost nothing out of it. And pretty soon you're just going to give back, which is totally fine. If you want to give back, you should give back. But you're not going to get a lot out of it usually at a certain point. So I don't really go to them myself anymore. I'm feeling that now with my 30 units, I may need this. Yeah, man, let's talk. If you want to get deeper into it, like I can step you through the process a little more in depth, like one-on-one. But it's a great model. I really I love it. Honestly, it's helping our business have a really nice base of revenue every month. That's predictable, right? It comes in every single month, and there are no repairs, there are no excuses, there's no vacancies, right? It's just we're the bank. We're playing the bank, and it's always good to be the bank, always. So all right. I don't know if it looks like nobody else has questions. It's totally fine. We're kind of at the end of the time here. Thanks for being here, guys. I really appreciate it. And once again, if you weren't here early on, Bob, you may not have been. Doug, I don't know. This is my last Q&A. I'm kind of shutting this down as an open thing every Wednesday. It may come back in the form of a closed group or something that you have to belong to before we can do this. But it's been awesome. It's been fun. I really appreciate it. I love talking to you guys, especially you guys that come every week. It's just so cool that you do that, and I really appreciate it. But I have a long list of accomplishments, things I want to do this year. I've got a lot of lofty goals, and I need to reprioritize my time a little bit and dedicate a little bit more time to some of those activities. So I love you guys for being here. I really do. And I thank you. And we'll be talking again. And I'm posting on Facebook all the time now, guys. If you want to get a hold of me, if you have questions, concerns, you want to find out if this group ever, or if this, Q&A ever resumes and you want to be a part of it, shoot me a DM on Facebook. That's at this point, it's the best way to get a hold of me. DM me on Facebook. I'll see it. I check it every day. I'll get back to you, and that's where I'll be posting a lot of stuff. I am creating stuff. I'm creating free videos and walkthroughs and just things to try to help you guys in your business. But rather than doing this on Wednesday nights, I'm kind of dedicating my time to creating content for you guys that I think is going to help you a lot in 2023. So reach out to me on Facebook. Yeah, Corey, thank you, man. I appreciate it. I appreciate you being here all the time. And you're awesome. And Corey said he can vouch for my DM responses, right? You reached out to me today and we talked. So it's a good thing, right? We're in that age where I can see in real time what's going on. So don't be a stranger. Reach out to me, guys. Have a great one. I hope you guys have a fantastic 2023. I truly believe with all my heart and soul, this is going to be an amazing year for investors. A great, great year. And so I'd like to be a part of that for you. If you want to work with me, let's talk. Otherwise, just go get it. Just go after it. Refuse to fail. Refuse to not have a great year, and you will have a good